Good day, show for Durbanville. It's the end of another year, and part of me doesn't want to believe it. Part of me has been looking forward to the end of the year for a while. It's been exhilarating and it's been exhausting. I've experienced the grace of God in my personal life in a very deep and satisfying way, and the sustaining grace in another way. God has been really, really good to me and my family this year. And if I look at the church, I see the same. I saw a year where fellowship and warmness and friendship were formed. I'm thinking back of the fellowship camp that we had earlier this year, at the beginning of the year. I'm thinking back of the musical and some of the services we had, the long table year. And in my mind's eye, I just see relationships flourishing in the church. I'm looking at the Delft ECD projects, and it's going, and I'm thinking 1,500 kids are being touched every single day because of the work of some of the members here. Really so much hope, so much joy. I'm thinking back at the time earlier this year when we prayed together and we experienced the communion with God in an intense way. I really grew in my personal communion with God deeply in that season of prayer. Some of the messages on parenting and some of the messages on identity touched me deeply and challenged me deeply, and I know of so many others. It's been a good year. God is really working among us. And with that in mind, I just want to show us something of what we're planning for about next year. As elders, we went away on a camp, staff members, and we prayed together. And these are the 4 areas that we believe that God really wants us to expand in. And this is the word that we have, to stretch out the tent pegs, and not just in terms of getting more numbers, but in becoming a prophetic house on a hill for the community. The first one is in terms of leadership development. And we've been talking about it for a long time. We don't really know how to raise leaders. So this year we're going to focus. We're going to start focusing. Over the next 2 years, we're going to develop some form of acceleration, a leadership development program or institute among us, to trust God to not only build and establish leaders inside the church, but also inside the community. We want to help you grow. If you feel stuck, if you feel immature, if you don't know what to go forward, we trust in God that through this Leadership Institute that everyone in church will be able to grow intentionally to have a greater impact in their community or their home. Secondly, we trust in God for the caring to grow in our church, counseling and caring, a house of care, a shepherding community where people are mended, where people are cared for, and specifically where people on the outside and inside the church that have real hurt or that really feel stuck relationally can find grace from God. We want to see people accelerate, not be stuck relationally or stuck in the hurts of the past. So we have already established 3 counseling courses for next year, just a few of many. We really want to be a place where people run to, a city on a hill where someone needs hope they run to. Thirdly, we trust in God for community of prayer, that this really will be a house of prayer for all nations, where every single member in the church can grow in a communion and an intimacy with God, but not just for their own sake, where the city and where the nation is impacted because of the prayers of God that is heard here. Like God said to Solomon, that God will say the same to us. My ears are always towards you. My eyes are always towards you. I will hear. If my people pray, I will hear. That we'll be that community that prays. And then lastly, we really trust in God that this year that we will grow into what we desire of God, that we will grow to become a missional community. And when I say missional community, I mean a community that doesn't just exist for its own sake or to help people become closer to God in this community, but that we will be able to touch the community around us. In a sense, what we're doing in Urban, in a sense, what we're doing in Delft, but just all over at the schools and where we live, where every member will know that he is a witness, a sent one of God, who is bringing God's kingdom right there, that people will feel equipped and confident to witness for Jesus where they are in their lives, that righteousness, peace and joy will not just flow inside the church or inside our community, but really out onto the streets. That's what we're trusting for. So it's the end of the year. You know something that we're going to for next year. We want to invite you to reflect on what God has done in your own life, to see, trace back the steps where God has touched you in this year. Mark it down, write it down, know that God is with you, and know that God has got good plans for you. People, I want to say to you, do not be afraid of the future, because God is with us. If God is for us, what can be against us? Let's confidently walk into the year that God has for us individually and as a community, but see how you and we are going to grow together in leadership formation, in prayer, in caring for one another, and in establishing justice in the city. God be with you. Enjoy the rest. Thanks for a great year.